Going to Cappadocia is pretty unique because there's not many locations on Earth where you can see a sunrise inside a hot air balloon surrounded by 100 or so other hot air balloons. Now, if you go on Google Maps and you type in Cappadocia, you don't really get a specific area highlighted. Where you actually want to be is a small city called Goreme, which is a little bit east of Nevşehir. Now, we went in between June and July, so we did get the summer heat. And in the Istanbul travel guide, we talked about how that summer heat is bearable. It's also bearable in Cappadocia, but maybe to a lesser extent. If you look at the average temperature throughout all the months, you can see that if you're coming from June to August, expect some hot temperatures. So Goreme, or more generally speaking, the Cappadocia region, it's very open and rocky, so you won't find many areas that aren't getting blasted by the sun, so keep that in mind, especially if you're coming during August. Now, looking at rainfall, it is very dry during the summer months, similar to Istanbul. The heat and dryness can contribute to Goreme not looking so green as it might in June, and that may be why our guide told us the best time to come is that early June. Now, you can see in June you may get some rain. Now, the rainfall is very critical when you're visiting the Cappadocia region, but we'll get to that later. So humidity-wise, you can see that it's very low humidity almost year long here. So going back to the map, there's two ways to get to Goreme. The first is with a flight, and the second is with driving. Now, if you decide the flight route and you're already in Istanbul, you can fly simply from Istanbul to Kayseri or to Nevşehir. Online, we read that it's more recommended to fly into the Kayseri airport, but the prices for the different flights were about the same, and Nevşehir is closer to Goreme. So I'm not sure why there's a strong recommendation to fly here. Nevertheless, if you decide to fly to either airport, you'll need to find transportation to get to Goreme. But remember, this is a very desirable place for tourists, and that the Cappadocia region is also a tad bit isolated and spread out. And if you decide to fly into this region, the next thing you want to look at is transportation to get to Goreme. And you have two options. You can take a taxi or you can do a rental car. Now remember that this is a very desirable place for tourists, and the Cappadocia region as a whole is a tad bit isolated and spread out, so you're at the mercy of whatever taxis will charge you if you go the taxi route. If you go the rental car route, again, prices are going to be elevated, just kind of expect that. But the rental car will probably save you money because you'll want a car while you're here. If you're doing an extended vacation or you started in Istanbul, there's another option to drive all the way to Goreme, and it is about an 8-hour drive with pit stops, but it allows you to see a lot of the cool things in the country that kind of get overlooked terrain-wise. And if you're deciding to have a rental car and make that journey, driving in the country wasn't too difficult. Major cities are major cities, you can have busy traffic. Once you're on the highways or open roads, it's easy to adapt to the driving style here. So if you're coming from the United States, you will need to get an international driver's license. That only ended up costing about $20, and that was done same day. Generally, speed limits are broken down by the type of road, I believe, such as highways and city streets. But there'll be a link in the description explaining the speed limits for each kind of roadway. Also, the cost of speeding tickets will be linked. Usually, if you're going through tolls, they get printed off at the next toll you reach. Now, speaking of tolls, if you plan on making this drive, you'll need to make sure that your rental car has a toll pass. And if you're coming in summer months, there are a lot of people here for tourism. That's no joke. So you may run into issues with finding accommodations. And for that, obviously book as early as you can to try to get the best deals and best availability. If you're not coming in summer, you might have better luck booking last minute, but that's a risk I wouldn't want to take. We stayed at the Arena Cappadocia Hotel, which is a very nice hotel. Probably one of the nicest hotels we've stayed at. You can see here they have kind of upstairs area for breakfast and an entire common space. It's a very nice hotel, highly recommend. Now, if you look up this hotel on their website or Airbnb for their rooms, you'll notice it's really expensive. They have super fancy and expensive rooms because they're a super fancy and expensive hotel. And you're in a super fancy, expensive area. So at this hotel, there is one room in the basement, and we booked that basement room to become the basement trolls. There's a few good things about doing this. Aside from the rooms, everything in the hotel is a common area, so we were able to access all the common areas, which showed incredible views of the entire area. Also at this hotel, there's only like 7 rooms, so you get a very empty rooftop most of the time if many of the rooms aren't booked here. You also get free breakfast, I'll comment why that is particularly great for this hotel later on. And the basement room is also a fantastic room. You just don't get a view of the sunrise, which isn't a big deal, and the cost was tremendously low. When we arrived, the check-in guy told us that many things here are quite touristy, and many restaurants aren't that good for the cost. And that was one of the reasons why having a hotel that provides free breakfast is pretty good. Because when you have the choice of free breakfast or expensive touristy breakfast, you're going to pick the free breakfast. As far as converting money, again, you're at the mercy of whatever places you can find here to try to get whatever rate. You're not going to get that good of a rate as you would in Istanbul, but it is what it is if that's your only choice. Budgeting wise, I would say put a 1.5 times multiplier from what I recommended in the Istanbul video. As for food recommendations, we enjoyed a few restaurants. We tried to find ones that had pretty good reviews, weren't that touristy. One of the restaurants we recommend is called Pumpkin Goreme. Another one that we recommend is Top Deck Cave. It's not on top of a deck, you're actually in a room with no windows. That being said, we really enjoyed their meze platter. They had pork and they had baklava with ice cream. That was pretty good. The last place we recommend is this place called Dream Spot. The food is a little bit expensive. It was alright. It was better than probably most of the restaurants. But really they have a cool view. For recommendations of things to do, the open air museums are pretty cool. You can see cave houses where people used to live many, many years ago. So we recommend the Zelve Open Air Museum. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. There's also a Goreme Open Air Museum. The entrance fees were about $6 per person when we went, but that's subject to the inflation that the country is currently experiencing. Now, there's also ATV sunset tours where you ride around the area with a huge group of ATVs. And I think they also have similar tours with horse riding. If this interests you, go for it. I think anyone with ATV experience won't find this as worthwhile because the group only moves as fast as the slowest rider. And you can be in groups of, it looked like 50 or even more ATVs. Another thing we recommend is waking up early to see the sunrise. It's a very beautiful area. It's a very beautiful scene. So in our opinion, the best place to see the sunrise is Love Valley. Now, Love Valley is where you see these commonly pictured fairy chimneys in the area. And depending on the wind direction, the hot air balloons can actually get blown near the fairy chimneys. And lastly, the big one, doing the sunrise hot air balloon experience. Save this one for last because this is most likely why you're coming here, and there's a lot to consider. Firstly, the prices are high. Really high. We saw them almost double from when we booked the vacation to when we were actually in the area. And companies at the time of us booking were charging upwards of $250 per person during summer. So those prices have been climbing almost exponentially. So if you're going to come here, maybe try to do this sooner than later as prices just keep going up. Now, if you wait until last minute to book the hot air balloon tour, your accommodation may be able to get you a deal. Our hotel said that they could get us in for $100 per person or so, but this isn't always guaranteed, and it's a huge gamble if this is why you're coming here. You want to have that booked in advance. Now, the hot air balloon flights, it can be canceled not only due to rain, but also wind conditions. When we were there weren't any cancellations due to rain, but there was a cancellation due to wind conditions, and I'm not sure if the people actually got refunded. But overall, we would say the experience is worth it, and there are ways to budget around the heavy price tag for the hot air balloon. Now, we went with a company called Butterfly Balloons, and they have a really solid rating. You can book everything online. We didn't have any complaints. So at 4 a.m., we were picked up from our hotel by Butterfly Balloons, and were driven to, I believe, their company building, where they gave us breakfast, which consisted of mainly fruits and breads. And then we headed towards the takeoff area. Now, it's worth noting at 4 or 5 a.m., Goreme is pretty chilly, so you may need to bring a jacket, even in summer. So once you get to the takeoff area, your pilot and his crew will help set up the balloon, and then you take off with the other balloons. Now, you're in the sky for about 1 to 1.5 hours. Again, depending on where the wind takes you, can fly near Love Valley or anywhere else. Now, if your pilot is good, he lands you on the trailer that will be carrying the hot air balloon back. And then after you get off the hot air balloon, you usually have a champagne toast to celebrate. And after everything's done, you get dropped back off at your hotel. You'll probably take a nap because you got up at 4 a.m. Overall, I would say 3 days in Goreme or the Cappadocia region should be okay for you. Now, you can dedicate the first day to actually being in the hot air balloons and try to make it the first day here in case of cancellations. It's a real shame if you plan the hot air balloons your last day and there's a cancellation and then you have to leave. Now the second day you can see the hot air balloons from La Valley, see the sunrise, and it is completely different being in the sky versus seeing the balloons from the ground. Both give really good views. And the third day you can dedicate to hikes. You can go to the open air museums. You can go to the Uchizar area where there's a very nice castle, or you can use it as a flex day or backup day if your hot air balloon gets canceled. As far as useful tips, number 1, bring sunscreen. There's not much shade. You don't want to get toasted in the sun. Number 2, try not to fall for tourist traps. It's going to be a little bit harder here. Do your best. And number 3, just enjoy your time. It's a very nice area. It's very beautiful. It's very scenic. That being said, if you found the video helpful, please like, comment, share, subscribe so that other people can have good trips when visiting the Cappadocia region.